Hello, my name is Samuel. I'm simply a regular man, nothing out of the ordinary, neither especially attractive nor tall. I'm just a regular person. 100 yards ahead, take a right. I could hear the navigator's voice from my phone, which was stuck to the dashboard with some type of sticky pad. The road was long and straight. I could see exactly where I needed to go next. 100 yards. It had to be that traffic signal. Fortunately, even someone like me has connections. An old acquaintance was getting married, and he had sent me an invitation. I was driving to the venue right now. I had an important matter this morning, so I left work right away, but it didn't seem to be an issue. It appears that I will arrive on time. I'd heard that this road is notoriously congested, but I got lucky. I took the right after following the guidelines. The radio was playing upbeat music. The radio show was one of those standard ones where listeners could request tunes. It's intriguing since you can listen to a wide range of songs, from current hits to nostalgic favorites, regardless of genre. The navigator's voice chimed in again amid the music. Turn left after 200 meters. Your final destination will be on your left. There's an ocean there. I've been invited to one of the country's most prestigious luxury resort hotels. It was perfectly situated, neither too far nor too close to the city. The distance was ideal for getting away from regular life while still being easily accessible. Indeed, there were other evaluations on the internet that were identical to my beliefs. Because of these factors, almost all of the accommodations had an ocean view. This hotel was so popular that reservations were difficult to come by. The costs are exorbitant because it is a premium hotel, yet many people are prepared to pay. You've arrived at your destination. Therefore, the navigation is over. The parking lot was already completely crowded. I located a parking spot and parked my car. I was already exhausted from the long trip to work. I took a deep breath and sipped the rest of the coffee I had purchased along the way. I turned off the engine, stowed my phone in my bag, and exited the vehicle. That's some serious wind. My suit flew in the wind as soon as I stepped outside. I couldn't stop myself from exclaiming in amazement. Today appears to be pretty windy. Perhaps it's because we're near the sea. I'm starting to become worried. As I pressed a black button on the door handle to lock the car, I murmured to myself. When I walked into the hotel lobby, I saw a sign that said, "Welcome to Logan and Ruby's wedding." The sound of all the chatter suggested that there were already a large number of individuals present. I arrived approximately 40 minutes before the scheduled start time, so I wasn't late, but I felt myself walking quicker towards the reception area. I'm Samuel, a groom's pal. I introduced myself, indicating which side of the wedding party I belonged to, and finished the standard greetings. Here's something special for the happy couple. My heart was racing from the haste, but I tried to remain cool. I presented the wedding gift and signed the guest book. I thought I wrote my name neatly, but it might not appear that well to someone else. I finally reached the site after finishing the formalities. Some recognizable faces appeared, such as those of co-workers. My bride and groom were both high school classmates of mine. Logan, the groom in particular, has been a friend of mine since elementary and middle school. Logan was one of the few friends that stayed in touch with me after I dropped out of high school for various reasons. When I was in my final year of high school, I was in a severe vehicle accident in which both of my parents died. I was the only one who made it out alive, but I was only living at the time. Nothing else. It felt like I'd lost everything except my life. I suffered through days of excruciating pain. To make matters worse, a particular truth was revealed. My parents had been running a failed family business and had amassed a substantial amount of debt. I was able to pay it off with the insurance money, but there wasn't much left over. I had no choice but to begin working to support myself. In retrospect, I may have benefited from a variety of assistance programs. But I couldn't think so far ahead at the time, so I dropped out of high school and began working steadily, despite the burden of rent. I looked for a live-in job since I thought the city would be too harsh. I chose to relocate to the country until I was able to stabilize. Every day during those dire times, I worked tirelessly. Looking back, I believe I was engrossed in my work to distract myself from the reality of losing my parents. Now I have no worries in my life and no financial difficulties. In fact, I believe I am living a more pleasant life than I was previously. I went to the restroom because there was still some time before the ceremony began. The floor map indicates that there should be one on the same floor as the venue. It's right here. What are you talking about? I went to the men's restroom after seeing the sign, but there was a yellow board at the entrance. The sign was roughly knee-high and read "Cleaning in Progress" in huge red letters. If it's being cleaned, there's nothing I can do. I remembered another one on the second floor and decided to see it. I climbed the stairs and looked at the floor plan. It appeared to be directly above the restroom I had just tried. I dashed over. This one seems to be usable. Phew. I wiped the water off my hands with a napkin and examined my face in the mirror after performing my business and washing my hands. There was no stubble left behind. Good. I was going to return to the event after rolling down my sleeves that I had pushed up to wash my hands when I heard a voice and came to a halt. The voice didn't come from the men's room. "Is that you, the bride?" As I passed by, I recognized the voice as belonging to today's heroine, Ruby. She was quietly discussing something with a member of the wedding party. "Okay, so that's resolved." "Understood." The male employee wore a suit with a bowtie and had his black hair fixed with wax. He had nodded in agreement and hurried off after obtaining instructions from the bride. I was caught staring at this scene and made unexpected eye contact with Ruby, who had remained there. "Oh, you, please excuse me." She stared at me, shocked, and reared up, her footsteps making noise. "You're Samuel, correct? What exactly are you doing here?" "It's self-evident. I went since I had been invited to the wedding." She was unpleasant, as usual. Ruby and Logan have been dating since they were in high school. They were known for their outstanding relationship and were even dubbed the perfect couple at the time. I frequently hung out with Logan, which made Ruby perceive me as a rival. She appeared to be competing with me all the time. "I can't have any alone time with Logan since you're always present." She would berate me for anything Logan related. "What have I got to do with it? Don't annoy us just because you're not popular or have a girlfriend." She would pick fights over anything and always appear hostile. Logan always felt terrible for her attitude, which I never really cared about. I told Logan and other close friends about my decision to drop out of high school, but I didn't tell Ruby about it. I believed Logan would tell her, so I didn't see the need to discuss it with her. And now, in our first meeting since then, she was throwing verbal spears at me once more. Ruby's abrasive demeanor had remained consistent over the years. Listening to her was like going back in time, which was strangely pleasant. This was not the time for such upbeat ideas. "So you graduated from high school, correct? Isn't it your greatest level of education, middle school?" She raised her eyebrows, seeing me as a high school dropout. Obtaining a college degree is not difficult these days, but she had a reason to make fun of me. "How can someone like you, from the bottom rung, be friends with my Harvard-educated husband?" Logan, the groom and my best buddy, had graduated from Harvard University. Although obtaining a university degree is not difficult, there is a major difference between this and dropping out of high school. When you dig deeper, you realize that this does not determine someone's worth as a person. She was, of course, proud to be married to a graduate of one of the nation's best colleges. Keep your head down where it belongs. Logan, crawling in the mud, is probably embarrassed to have a friend who graduated from middle school. She was destroying her wedding gown by hitting me while standing with one hand on her hip and her weight on one leg. As for me, I found the insults to be abrupt. I just stood there, unable to respond, taking advantage of my stillness. She went on, "I get it now. Isn't your employment subcontracting for my husband's work? That means you must be courteous to him." She had a sly grin on her face, as if she were planning something. She also extended out the end of the phrases in an unpleasant way, clearly intending to make me uncomfortable. "Logan is bothered too, because my husband is too nice to say so. I'll mark you as unavailable for the wedding." Her face became solemn as she said this. She then proceeded with a softer tone. "Please just go home. Could you also cut connections with my husband?" Her piercing comments rendered me dumbfounded once more. Ruby ignored me as she returned to her dressing room. I stood in the corridor, watching her walk away. I couldn't figure out why she continued firing such lines at me, no matter what her intentions were. Her remarks took me by surprise. Ruby has always been rough on me and competitive since we were children, but I recall it not being about looking down on or mocking me. "So Logan thinks I'm bothering him as well." Her words struck me hard. I'm not sure if they're true or not. But what if one of my few close friends truly thinks that way about me? Perhaps dropping out of high school and going to work was a bad decision after all. I'd never given it any thought before. But now that she'd mentioned it, I realized how often people's reactions to my educational background had startled me. Ruby's rant had taken a heavier toll on me than I had anticipated. I'd probably giggle at how bewildered I appeared in the mirror. What do I do now? As I pondered, another woman, unlike Ruby, approached me. Her shoes created a clicking sound as she walked elegantly. She was dressed chicly yet modestly, without overshadowing the husband and bride, and was wearing a high-end necklace and earrings. That's exactly where you were. I couldn't help but notice how different she was from Ruby just moments before. Yes, the first floor restroom was being cleaned. I needed to go somewhere quickly, so I came up here. Is that correct? Speaking of which, she walked up alongside me, smiling charmingly, and whispered in my ear, if that matter gets out, his company will undoubtedly go bankrupt. That's correct, boss. She spoke as if she could see into the future. I went back to the venue with her. Lucy was her name. She works for my company as my secretary. When I looked around with her, I observed that the gathering had become even larger. Logan has a knack for assembling a large audience. He does indeed. Looking around, the attendees were quite amazing. Logan hails from a large business-owning family. He has connections with significant corporations and is a Harvard graduate. Because it's his wedding, he's obviously from a notable family. The guest level was impressively high. It has the feel of a social gathering rather than a wedding. Isn't that correct? The majority of them appear to know each other, but not all. Those who are unfamiliar with others use business card exchanges and conversations as opportunities. What are they doing at another person's wedding? Is that a newspaper establishment over there? Following her gaze, I noticed a group of people who appeared to be journalists. Logan had become a well-known businessman, enough so that his wedding made headlines, but something didn't feel right. The journalists appeared overly serious for a wedding. They appeared to be thinking about something serious. Perhaps another announcement will be made. Ruby's behavior also piqued my interest. After some consideration, I concluded her behavior was out of the ordinary. Not only was her tone unpleasant, but she was also speaking quickly. It felt as if something was chasing her. There was an obvious sense of unease. There's obviously something there, Lucy. The lights in the venue lowered, a spotlight flashed on the main entrance, and the MC's voice began to come through the speakers just as I was ready to speak to my secretary. Thank you for coming to Logan Smith and Ruby's wedding today, ladies and gentlemen. We valued your presence. Following the introduction by the MC, the participants proceeded to their designated seats. The media were oddly seated in front of the visitors. I hadn't noticed previously, but there were photographers among the media. Could these be television station reporters? Logan appeared to be about to make a huge statement. Aside from the seating arrangement, the ceremony went off without a hitch. Too many speeches made me sleepy, but that's to be expected at a wedding of this size. Okay, the time has arrived. The ceremony was nearly over. Logan finally accepted the microphone. He began by thanking God for giving him the opportunity to celebrate this day. He expressed gratitude to his parents, colleagues, and even myself. And now I'd like to make another announcement. This, I'm sure, is what the local media is most enthusiastic about. Ruby is crying beside me. Logan spoke clearly. His attempt at a borderline hilarious speech did not seem to go over well. Lucy seemed to be the only one in the audience who got the humor. Perhaps the sarcasm was a little too strong. I'll conclude my internal critique of his attempt at levity here. I moved my attention to the groom and listened intently to what he had to say. Logan and Ruby exchanged glances, as if steeling themselves, before turning back to face the camera. I have some extremely important news to share with everyone here. Please pay close attention. He then motioned the staff with his hand. Several employees began assembling a huge screen, a laptop, and a projector. The lights faded once more, and everyone's gaze returned to the television. A cameraman, presumably from a broadcast station, focused on the screen. There was a loud disturbance in the rear of the room. Logan, what exactly is this? What exactly are you doing? Logan's father's voice was heard. He was the company's president, and Logan is an executive there. People in the area were attempting to calm him down. Please proceed. This employee linked the projector to the laptop. Scanned documents appeared on the screen after a few seconds. What have you done, Logan? Logan's father started making a scene again after seeing the documents. No surprise, the records were unequivocal proof of his father's guilt. Logan, please respond. Logan, the source of his father's rage, however, opted to ignore him. Logan maintained his cool and finished his statement. First, these documents demonstrate illicit gains obtained from client transactions. Please be assured that we will distribute these files to the media present here. Meanwhile, his father and others who appeared to have benefited from the misbehavior were raising a commotion. They appeared to be attempting to prevent Logan's exposure, but he had foreseen this situation. Logan's minions were discreetly deployed throughout the venue, neutralizing the protesters totally. It has to be set up to ensure no disturbances. Oh no, things have grown serious. Yes, but it's all Logan's strategic victory. Logan, who was most likely tense, continued calmly. Here's some evidence of unlawful firing. My father has been unfairly dismissing employees who disagreed with him or who he disliked. This is only my hypothesis, but someone had to try to uncover his malfeasance. However, it appears that the employee was threatened in some way and subsequently fired because Logan's father observed the behavior. And now comes the big revelation. Our associated company manufactures home appliances. This screen transitioned from documents to mechanical drawings. They had red circles and notes on them. It's a bit complicated, but in short, my father continued to sell the products despite knowing about a problem that should have resulted in a recall. The manufacturer's name, model number, and product name were written in the bottom right corner of the plan. Even though I'm not particularly knowledgeable about household appliances, the product was so well known and popular that I recognized it. Meeting records were also made public, demonstrating that the president was aware of the need for a recall. Although no mishaps have been documented, continued use could result in serious occurrences. All of this was announced in front of the media and business partners. It was a tasty story for the media, but it was a bombshell that could destroy everything for Logan's father. Look at that, boss. Following Lucy's attention, I noticed numerous people in the screen's content aiming their cell phones toward the rioting father. Although it wasn't entirely clear, there was an unmistakable sense that they were live streaming their actions. This situation was poised to become a significant event. Could this be the endgame for them? Their business was substantial, operating not only on a domestic scale but also internationally. The scale of the live stream remained uncertain, but it was undoubtedly headed for an online audience. Logan, oh Logan, his father was in dire need, and even that personal crisis was being broadcasted. Logan's attempts to suppress the revelations only ended up reinforcing his claims. I intended to disseminate all these facts to newspapers, television stations, and publishers. We couldn't risk someone losing their life due to a catastrophic accident. I tried conveying this to my father, but he remained obstinate. Gradually, more and more people began pointing their cell phones at the unfolding scene. The sound of camera shutters filled the room. Regrettably, I had to make this announcement here, but my wife understood. Logan's father appeared to resign himself to his impending fate, calming down amidst the chaos. The rioters were being escorted out of the venue. Before leaving, please collect the wedding gifts you had graciously sent us, as they will be returned. Ruby, standing alongside Logan, made a public apology. We expressed our sincere regrets for all the inconvenience caused. Together, as the bride and groom, we extended our apologies to the audience. It was an unexpected turn of events for a wedding celebration. Eventually, Logan's father was also escorted outside. Those who remained at the venue were the ones applauding the couple's courage. We personally returned the wedding gifts to each guest and bid them farewell. Once everyone had departed, Lucy and I approached the newlyweds. That was quite an ordeal. Tomorrow's headlines will surely be unforgettable. Indeed they will be. Logan, finally letting his guard down, had tears of relief in his eyes. Logan, I insisted you leave earlier. Ruby's eyes were already streaming with tears. Whether she was crying or angry, or perhaps a mix of both, she gazed at me with a conflicted expression. What had transpired was beyond belief, and revealing it here had been our only choice. Even if I had tried to make a public announcement, those aligned with my father would have thwarted my efforts. My autonomy within the company was nearly non-existent. This is why the decision was made to reveal everything at the wedding, where we had some control. Initially, it was Ruby's idea, and Logan had reservations about potentially spoiling such an important occasion, a sentiment I fully understood. Observing Logan's increasing stress and weariness, Ruby could no longer bear to see him in this state, and she persistently persuaded him. Eventually, he relented, leading to today's shocking disclosure. What my father did will undeniably result in a police investigation. The news is already spreading in the media, and stock prices are expected to plummet. I won't come out of this unscathed either, Logan admitted, looking down. However, Ruby offered him comfort by patting his back. I told you not to dwell on it any longer. I've made my decision to stand by your side, haven't I? No need to apologize. It seemed like ever since high school, Logan had often deferred to Ruby. But what about my job? Logan questioned. That's why I'm telling you, if it comes to that, I'll support both of us, Ruby reassured him. Her determination was unwavering, and her words carried weight. Watching the contrast between the timid Logan and the assertive Ruby, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Lucy, though quiet, seemed to share the sentiment. Hey, what's so funny? Logan asked. Just the dynamics of power in your marriage. It's just as I imagined, I chuckled. And well, what's that supposed to mean? As adults, Logan and I often discuss business matters as partners. However, laughing together now, it felt like we were just friends once more. After leaving high school, I had worked diligently and my efforts had gradually gained recognition, leading to rapid promotions. Eventually, I was recruited as an executive by my current company. Soon after, I married the daughter of the then chairman, which appeared to be a stepping stone to my current position as president. By the way, my wife's name is Lucy, and she's the woman beside me, also serving as my secretary. I was aware of the wrongdoing by Logan's father. Logan and I, as business partners, always kept each other well informed about our respective affairs. I had thought he might reveal it one day, but I never expected it to happen today. Turning to Ruby, I asked, "Speaking of which, Ruby, is something on your mind?" She averted her gaze awkwardly. "Is it about what happened this morning?" "No, it's not like that," she replied. "I told him to leave and sever ties." Could it be that Ruby's harsh words were intended to protect me? Perhaps she was concerned that the revelation could escalate the situation further, potentially endangering me in the chaos that ensued. As Logan's partner, any harm that befell him could also affect me. It seemed like Ruby had her own way of looking out for me. "Is that right? You've always been a contrarian, haven't you?" That's not what I intended to convey. Ruby's personality can be quite enigmatic, making it challenging to discern her true intentions. Well, that's okay. I'll assume she was looking out for me in her own unique way. Ruby was the one who curated the guest list for the wedding. Given the circumstances, she focused on inviting media professionals, company associates, and those directly connected to the wrongdoing. However, Logan insisted on extending an invitation to me. My presence wasn't exactly what Ruby had in mind. That's why she attempted to usher me away in such a manner. Reflecting on it, I realized the peculiar feeling I had before the ceremony began. There were no close family ties represented on either side. This might explain why it felt more like a formal social gathering. Perhaps this was another aspect of Ruby's consideration. Sorry about that, you know." Ruby suddenly offered a quiet apology. I stared at her, taken aback by her unexpected words. "What? No, it's nothing. I was just surprised, that's all." Ruby had suddenly become meek and hesitant, which prompted a soft chuckle from Logan. "Don't laugh at that. Sorry, well, what you said earlier was a shock, but if it was meant to protect me, I appreciate it." I half-jokingly expressed my gratitude. Ruby's ears turned bright red as she stammered, "That's not what I meant. You're such an annoying guy. You haven't changed at all since high school." "And you haven't changed either, Ruby," I remarked. Like the laughter shared with Logan, this interaction reminded me that some things truly remain unchanged. Despite our transformed roles and ages, our core natures harken back to our high school days. Eventually, Logan's company faced financial troubles, leading him to abandon his role as an executive and embark on a new entrepreneurial journey. I hadn't received all the details yet, but he mentioned his desire to focus on helping children without families. Logan's voice on the phone sounded much more cheerful than it did on that wedding day. "And you, Samuel?" "Yeah, your decision to leave high school took both me and Ruby by surprise," I replied. "We couldn't get in touch with you, and the last time we saw you, you appeared so troubled. We were genuinely concerned. At that time, I tried to put on a facade, acting like everything was fine, but it seems my friends saw right through it. It's hard to tease Ruby now about her honesty. I've always felt frustrated that I couldn't do more for you." Listening to my friend's words, tears welled up in my eyes. I didn't want to drop out either, but during those days, I couldn't see any other way. That's why I battled those challenges in solitude. There were nights when I cried myself to sleep. You're incredibly resilient and have managed to thrive on your own. But there are countless kids who can't do that and end up giving up on everything. I want to be there for those kids. Maybe the part about you being strangely tough was an understatement, but I can't match your kindness and sense of justice. Hey, Logan, if it's all right with you, let me support your new venture. Really, you do that. "Jer, count me in. We'll make it a success," Logan replied with gratitude. I felt an immense sense of pride to have Logan as my best friend. Logan's new business appeared to be prospering. Although it wasn't driven solely by profit and seemingly required rigorous management, it was fulfilling work that brought smiles back to the faces of underprivileged children. As we discussed it during a meeting, Logan was also beaming with joy. Despite the additional wrinkles on his face, he still resembled the Logan I knew in high school. Some things change with time, while others remain constant. How we spend our time gradually shapes our hearts. It's a form of growth, but Logan's unwavering integrity and sense of justice are qualities I hope will never fade away. Reflecting on everything that transpired, that's what I've come to believe.